Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, as usual, the hazardous weather graphic, and still have some yellow shaded areas here, and that's signifying wind advisories that are out here for the Koyukuk Valley in toward Tanana and then back to the southwest today, including the lower Yukon River Valley areas. Wind advisories that were out yesterday here for the central Tanana Valley up toward Fort Yukon. That's ended, but still pretty breezy here through these yellow areas. In fact, pretty good winds even right out to the coastline, Seward Peninsula area. But looking for anywhere winds 30 to 40, maybe 45 miles an hour, much like you saw today, to continue through tonight, all due to end at 6 a.m. on Friday. From there, fire danger chart, kind of an early start to start carrying this year, but we do have some couple of spots here that I noticed were flagged as very high in the fire danger area. That's the Matanuska Valley, that due to the lack of snow cover, and actually that rating is for grass, which obviously dries out quite quickly. The heavier fuels, limbs, branches, trees don't rank nearly that high, but obviously grass here this time of year can catch fire and burn quite quickly, and especially after the drying winds we had yesterday up there, pretty brisk, and the dry conditions today. Got very high fire danger there for the Matanuska Valley and areas of the western Kenai Peninsula in and around Kenai. Otherwise, pretty good everywhere else. Moving on to satellite imagery, had moisture streaming northward here, and that brought rain across all the southeast coast, kind of the old Arctic boundary. Hard to say Arctic because it's all rain through here, at least at sea level. Obviously higher elevation saw some snow, and southeast winds carried some moisture in with an even weaker system, or a very weak system here. Earlier today, a few flurries and snow showers drifted across northern Cook Inlet, Chugach Mountains, and toward the Matanuska Valley. But amounts are quite light. It just pulled in a lot sooner today than I thought it was going to yesterday. And then a couple other weak impulses, surges coming up, bringing some showers into Whittier, Portage. Just clouds reported everywhere else, Seward to Cordova. And just an increase in the clouds over the Copper River Basin into the North Waitok area remaining dry. Lots of sunshine, clear conditions, gusty winds up over the central interior, all the way out there to the Seward Peninsula and out to the coastline here. And that doesn't really show up that great on this satellite imagery, but clear skies well to the west here, including St. Lawrence Island. Arctic coast, mostly clear. North Slope, not bad. Brooks Range also, with some patchy areas of clouds and flurries on the east side, but even that's not all that extensive. And then out to the west, a very weak, washed out system here. That's, as I put that in motion again, you can see it's starting to drift a little bit back to the west in this frame, but really it's pretty washed out. There was a narrow area of light rain with it, mostly east of Atka on over toward Nikolsky. And some of that caught on Alaska, where they picked up a few hundredths of an inch in the last 12 hours. And St. George had about 1 or 2 hundredths with some brief showers that moved through earlier. And wind's not much of a factor with this at all. And the main low center farther to the west made it a little breezier, some rain and snow showers out around Shemya. And on the chart today, there's that weak system there with that very narrow area of light rain with it. And again, just clipping the eastern Aleutians there and clearing out at Adak. They're reporting clear skies, light winds this afternoon. So again, some sunshine there. So not too shabby out over the central Aleutians. And not too bad, but maybe a few more showers and clouds there towards Shemya and Attu. And a lot windier here over the interior. That was the windiest area of the state today, with Indian Mountain having gusts close to 50 miles an hour this afternoon. St. Michael, 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and Nome, 35 miles an hour. Same thing there at Bethel, they had 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and up around 40 or so at Marshall. So quite windy, and again, those wind advisory areas, but skies are clear and conditions dry. A few flurries there on the eastern Arctic coast, mostly around Kaktovik. Was about the only reporting station I saw that at today, and pretty good back to the west, clear with maybe a few lower ceilings, but not much. Into the Brooks Range, clear skies, and a little bit tighter gradient here over the eastern Alaska Range, made for winds gusting 40 to 45 miles an hour. Through the passes there, usually windier areas like Delta Junction had 42-mile-an-hour wind gusts this afternoon. This trough, the first one that came through earlier today, that's just some clouds up through here. Next one, not much stronger, a few isolated showers. The only places I saw again were Portage and Portage Valley, Portage Glacier reporting station, Whittier, with some light stuff going on there. And the southeast coast had a little bit heavier precipitation with Juneau and Metlakatla picking up 1/4 inch of rain during the 12-hour period, ending at 3 today, while Ketchikan had about 1/2 inch. Not too much really heavy, but at least it's something down there. And looking at tonight's forecast, some of that moisture shears off to the west here and brings a chance of moisture back into Kodiak Island with clouds, and keeps rain falling here over the southeast coast tonight, maybe mixed with snow further to the north, but those amounts will be very light. And maybe some flurries along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, and a chance of showers here, western Prince William Sound, on down on the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, Montague Island. I don't think Seward will see much at all, but mainly Portage and Whittier. Variably cloudy Copper River Basin, no change in the interior. Those wind advisories continue out, as I mentioned, until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Fog and flurries, IFR, central Arctic, or I'm sorry, eastern Arctic coast, maybe into the North Slope. And the only thing out here in the west is this continuing slowly dissolving frontal boundary here. It keeps a chance of moisture again west of Nikolsky and east of Atka, so kind of really in nowhere. And these easterly winds kind of continue to push it back, so maybe some clearing there for the Pribilof Islands, and clear skies here from the Bering Strait. Not just clear, or VFR, but clear skies here down along the southwest coast and beyond, and pretty good continuing up in the north. Forecast for Friday, lighter winds over the interior, but still sunny and dry, and a little breezy through the passes the western Brooks Range, but that's nothing really significant. Low clouds, fog, flurries, best chance eastern Beaufort Sea coast, none back to the west, and still a little bit unsettled here for the central Aleutians, of that remaining boundary just doesn't want to move. And then scattered showers along the Alaska Peninsula, Pacific side, on up into Shelikof Strait. Still an isolated shower chance southern Kenai Peninsula, maybe Port Moller, and Kodiak possibly a better chance. And then that system here shifts up to the north, weakening though, so just a chance of showers northern Panhandle. Breaking out, kind of a break over the central and southern southeast coast for tomorrow afternoon as this next system begins to approach, and that's going to kick the winds up as actually that one that approaches kind of crumbles and pulls back to the west here, but that's going to put a better surge of moisture into southern Alaska. Periods of rain along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, heaviest, of course, Whittier to Portage, maybe the south side of the Kenai Peninsula, and also increasing moisture here along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Cloudy skies, northern Cook Inlet, Manuska, Susitna Valley, with a very slight chance of moisture. And some of that moisture, very isolated rain or snow showers, could get up the eastern border there, but kind of getting hung up along the Alaska Range. Stays dry, pretty windy eastern Brooks Range, or sorry, western Brooks Range along mountains there. And again, Point Hope to Cape Lisburne, could see gusts 40 miles an hour. Otherwise, no change for the Arctic coast up there. And out west, no change, light winds, very light winds under this weak ridge axis here over the west central Aleutians. Isolated snow showers, rain or snow showers from Adak, Atka, eastern Aleutians, the Alaska Peninsula. And the forecast lows for tonight, a little below zero, let's call it 5 to 10 below for the Arctic coast into the North Slope. Brooks Range looking anywhere from 0 to 8 below to 8 above here, south of the mountain. Single numbers up Kobuk Valley to the upper Yukon, 7 over there at Eagle. Otherwise, teens in the Tanana Valley, mid to upper 20s here, south central Alaska. Upper 20s, Prince William Sound, to near 30 along the coast. Low 40 at Kodiak, or near 40. Upper 30s, Alaska Peninsula. Mid 30s for the Aleutians. St. Paul, low 28. 10 degrees colder, though, at Gamble with a low of 18. And mid 30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast. And rolling on into the Highs for tomorrow afternoon, see some improvement here over the southern areas. In the central may allow your temperatures to push into the lower 50s with mid 40s there, mid to upper 40s actually for south central Alaska, maybe even lower 50s there like Cordova, and near 40 in the Tanana Valley, otherwise mid-teens to lower 20s for the Brooks Range, and single numbers for the Arctic Coast and North Slope. And then your lows for Saturday morning, the first day of the weekend, nothing unusual, mid-30s near 40 there for the southeast coast, upper 30s right along the outer coastline of the North Gulf Coast, Valdez, say 33, below freezing south central Alaska, 25 to 30, staying well above freezing for Kodiak, upper 30s there, as well as the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, upper 20s again for the Pribilofs, mid-teens, St. Lawrence Island, Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, 5 to 10 below for your lows, single numbers, upper Yukon, Koyukuk, Kobuk Valley, and teens to mid-20s here for the Tanana Valley, a little cooler back to the west. And then taking a look at your highs for Saturday afternoon. Pushing a little above zero, 5 to 10 above for the Arctic coast into the North Slope, and now upper 20s pushing into the southern Brooks Range area, milder in the Tanana Valley now. In the 40s, still upper 20s, lower 30s back to the west, and 45 to 55 about sums it up for the southeast coast. Pushing toward 50 in the Copper River Basin, 45 to 51, Kenai Peninsula and the Matanuska Valley. Mid-40s there, Kodiak Island, on out to the Alaska Peninsula. And really not a lot of change here for the Aleutians, kind of that cool northerly flow. Keeps the high near freezing for St. Paul and around 20 for St. Lawrence Island area. Otherwise, mid to upper 30s there for the central western Aleutians to lower 40s around on Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First flying weather graphic. The show today, IFR here across the southern Bering Sea. The Aleutians, marginal VFR becomes VFR here. Nunivak Island and areas inland. Low clouds, fog, flurries there for some IFR on the central eastern North Slope and Arctic coast with VFR all the way down into the northeast Gulf of Alaska. Some IFR slipping on up into the central Panhandle and Kodiak Island. And then for the afternoon, no change here for Kodiak Island. A little bit of improvement here over the inside waters of the Panhandle with IFR there. It looks like hanging around Port Alexander. VFR, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, north until you get out to the Arctic coast there. And the North Slope, still some IFR lingering. And IFR now down over the Aleutians, up into the southeast Bering, just catching the Pribilofs. VFR for the Bering Strait. And for Saturday morning here, VFR across the interior, back to the IFR there, holding over the North Slope Arctic coastal areas. And marginal VFR now creeping across Nunivak Island, but south of St. Lawrence Island. And IFR, you got to go way back out there towards Chimianatu. And then IFR making a push inland here. Looks like trying to jump the coast range into the southeastern Copper River Basin. Marginal VFR back to, say, possibly Portage and across the southeast coast. And for Saturday afternoon, more moisture here. Conditions definitely lower. IFR up the east side of the western Alaska Range into southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, eastern Kodiak Island, into western Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR across the Matanuska, Susitna Valley and the Talkeetnas. Looks like improving for the southeast coast. VFR holding over the north central interior all the way down just south of the mountains there and Bristol Bay. Widespread IFR north sloping the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR now along the Yukon Delta coastline, St. Lawrence Island, and the remainder of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Looks like some IFR there just east of Nikolsky, west of Nikolsky. Anyway, for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan for tomorrow, Friday, will be VFR. Same forecast for Lake Clark and Merrill. VFR for the most part, rainy, VFR, and windy, also VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mentesta, another VFR day. Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal VFR off and on throughout the day, possibly IFR early on, but I'll call it marginal for the most part. And Chilcoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 to 4,000 feet here across the Panhandle tomorrow. Good southeast winds, trying to pull some warmer air up into the area there. Otherwise, at the surface by tomorrow morning here, along the North Gulf Coast and northern Bristol Bay to near the Pribilofs. And as far as icing goes, none out here to the west. And the interior, no icing. Just a slight chance here of some isolated, moderate, possibly rime or mixed conditions here along the Alaska Peninsula to Kodiak Island. But the bigger threat here is for the southeast coast. Looks like the heaviest icing will stay just off the coast there, maybe creeping in toward the central coast, then breaking out, and then another batch farther to the southeast. And for the jet stream, well to the south here, the main Pacific jet, right into the west coast, and then takes a turn to the northwest and weakens, kind of some ridging over western Canada. Upper level low weakening and really not moving a whole lot, drifting around, but holding at least through tomorrow here over the southwest part of the state. But that southerly flow around that, increasing the moisture there, again into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound area. And at 9,000 feet, increasing winds pretty good along the panhandle tomorrow, especially on the south coast, with a wave right through here swinging northwestward. And otherwise over toward the border, pretty light, and 10 to 20 over the southeast interior, and a band of 20 to 25 knot winds in the central interior, and then back down to 5 to 10 along the Arctic coast. Out west, pretty light winds for the Bering Sea, a little brisk up here over the northern Bering, 25 to 30 knots. 3,000 feet, same thing, 25 to 30 knot winds. Otherwise pretty light there over the Aleutians, southern Bering Sea. Easterlies 25 here, maybe up to 35 in the central interior areas, and increasing winds along the southeast coast. Turbulence-wise, with that will be increasing moderate chop as well, and that'll probably work inland by early evening on Friday over towards these covering the entire southern part, and then moderate turbulence up here over the northwest interior out to eastern Norton Sound. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast and ice conditions.
OTs. Welcome to Stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Plow Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory.
Springtime is known for great kite flying weather. And coincidentally, there is a constellation visible after sunset that looks surprisingly like a kite.
Yes, indeed, James. This week we're going to talk about the constellation Boötes the Herdsman and give you some information about some of its brightest stars.
Let's show you. Okay, we have our sky set for 10 p.m. facing northeast, where we see the Big Dipper high above the North Star. If its cup was full of water, it'd be pouring right into the Little Dipper and overflowing onto me.
If we shoot an arrow through the two stars on the end of the Big Dipper's cup and continue that line, it'll run smack dab into the North Star.
Now, let's use the Big Dipper's handle to find Boötes. Simply draw an imaginary line through the handle of the Big Dipper and extend it out along the curve, or arc, and you'll arc your way to the bright star Arcturus.
Arcturus is the brightest star in Boötes the Herdsman and has the unique distinction of being the fourth brightest star in the sky after number 1 Sirius, number 2 Canopus, and number 3 Alpha Centauri.
Johann Bayer used Greek letters, alpha through omega, and then A through K to label the 35 most prominent stars in Boötes. John Flamsteed later increased this number to 54 stars.
Now, good luck finding all those stars without a super dark sky. Nevertheless, 8 of those stars are easily visible to the naked eye, and the 6 brightest ones are visible even from the city.
Those stars form a kite-shaped pattern. Their names, traveling counterclockwise from Arcturus, are Rho Boötes, Sejanus, Neckar, Delta Boötes, and Izar. The 2 stars hanging off either side of Arcturus are Muffred and Zeta Boötes.
Arcturus got its name from an ancient Greek word that meant guardian of the bear. This makes sense since the constellation of Boötes is right next to Ursa Major, the Great Bear.
Arcturus is almost 37 light years away from us and is a red giant star about 110 times brighter than the Sun. It is also estimated to be slightly larger, mass-wise, than the Sun and between 6 billion and 8.5 billion years old.
Polynesian navigators called Arcturus Hokulea the Star of Joy, and from Hawaii, Arcturus became known as the Zenith Star because it passes almost directly overhead near midnight in the last few days of April. Another interesting fact about Boötes is that it's the radiant constellation for the Quadrantids meteor shower. The Quadrantids is a surprisingly prolific meteor shower. Under the best conditions, you might see 100 meteors streak across the sky per hour.
This meteor shower reaches its peak for only a few hours between January 3rd and 4th and gets its name from Quadrans Muralis, a constellation created by the French astronomer Jerome Lalande in 1795. It depicted a wall-mounted quadrant with which he and his nephew used for stellar cartography. And if you like asterisms, we have a spring triangle to show you, using Arcturus, Regulus, and Spica. Regulus is the brightest star in Leo the Lion. You can find it using the two stars Megrez and Phecta, which are in the bowl of the Big Dipper closest to the handle.
By drawing a line from Megrez through Phecta, you will eventually run into the head of Leo the Lion, which resembles a backwards question mark. The dot of the question mark is Regulus.
The next star, Spica, is easy to find using our Arcturus trick. By continuing the line from the Big Dipper's handle through Arcturus, you'll speed over to Spica, the brightest star in Virgo the Maiden.
So, by drawing a line from Regulus to Spica and over to Arcturus, you can make the spring triangle.
Just when you thought only the summer, winter, and fall had geometric patterns.
So get outside and check out the kite-shaped constellation of Boötes the herdsman with his bright star Arcturus.
And see if you can spot the spring triangle.
It's all there waiting for you when you keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at today's sea ice analysis, still advancing a little bit here, coming through the straits. A little bit more heavier ice north of St. Matthew Island, St. Lawrence Island, south of the Bering Strait here. And easterly winds next couple of days will give way to northerly winds there out in this area. So we're looking for the sea ice to advance 30 to 50 nautical miles southwestward through Monday. Coastal water forecast, east-southeast 30 knots here for the southern southeast coast, east 25 to 30 on the north coast, and north 30 for Lynn Canal tomorrow, north 20, gust 35 for Stevens Passage, and southeast winds at about 20 in the afternoon for Clarence Strait. And Saturday, small craft advisories for Clarence Strait, southeast 25 knots, gales on the south coast with that next system swinging up. Otherwise, east 30, 14 to 15 foot seas on the north coast. Lighter winds over the central northern inside waters out of the north at 10 to 15. Prince William Sound, north 15 tomorrow, but small craft advisories here from the North Gulf Coast right across the Barren Islands. All northeast 25 to as high as 30 knots, 10 foot seas. Small craft advisories, southern Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay, north to northeast at 25. And north 15, north of the Forelands. For Saturday, no change here for northern Cook Inlet, as well as southern Cook Inlet. Still small craft advisories with the strongest winds now to the northeast into toward Augustine Island. East 25 for the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast. East 30 knots for the eastern area there around Middleton Island, 15-foot seas. And look for small craft advisories for Prince William Sound. East winds up to 25 knots with 4-foot seas. Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, northeast at 30 tomorrow, seas 10 feet. Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev here, Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, northeast 25, seas 10 feet. And the Bering Sea side, northeast at 20, right on up into Bristol Bay with seas 3 to 5 feet. And then for the outlook on Saturday, north to northwest, 15 to 20 for the peninsula here with seas 5 to 8 feet. And up towards Sitkinak northerlies at 20, but northeast 25, Kodiak Island and Shelikof Strait with seas 8 to 9 feet. And out over the Fox Islands tomorrow, north to northeast, give or take there at 10 to 20 knots. Not too bad with 6 to 11 to 12-foot seas. North to northwest, 20 to 25 knots. Central Aleutians there at 12-foot seas. And becoming quite light out here to the west, just north at 10. But those seas hanging up there around 12 to 13 feet. And then for Saturday, we'll go easterly here from Kiska to Attu Island with 8-foot seas. Lighter winds here from Kiska, Amchitka to Adak, north at about 15. Then over toward Atka, we'll pick it up to 20 knots out of the north, 7 to 9-foot seas. And eastern Aleutians north to northwest at 15 to 20 knots with seas running 6 to 9 feet. And for the southwest coast, southern Nunivak Island, winds will be lighter, 20 knots, and those will continue right across the Pribilofs out of the northeast, 8 to 5-foot seas. Small craft advisories here, northern Nunivak Island, St. Matthew Island, 30 knots, St. Lawrence Island, 25 out of the north, Norton Sound, northeast at 20. And north 20 for the Sound up there on Saturday. Small craft advisory, St. Lawrence Island. And that's it. Otherwise, south of there, of that zone, winds are north, but down to 20 knots in all areas. The sea's running 4 to 7 feet. And up along the Beaufort Sea coast, east side, east 15, light easterlies on the central coast, and down to Point Lay to Cape Beaufort, east 20, Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast at 20. And then pretty light here, northerlies at 10 for the area on down to Wales. And pick that back up to 20 knots there from Wales up to Cape Thompson. And then the strongest winds here, again, Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, northeast 30. And brisk wind advisories, actually from that point, Cape Thompson, all the way over to Demarcation Point. More easterly here on the east side, all at 25, northeast 25, central and west coast. And looking at tonight, rain continues with this southeast flow, main low center back to the southwest. Surges of moisture coming around. One breaks off, heads toward Kodiak, but really nothing too heavy heading into there. Variable clouds, risk of a rain or snow shower, mostly along western Prince William Sound, south side of the Kenai Peninsula. Fair over the interior, wind advisories continuing, possible gusts 35 to 45 miles an hour in the same windy areas that they were today. Otherwise, out west, nothing going on, but a slowly dissolving frontal boundary there that just keeps hanging on into Friday with a risk of a light rain or snow condition for these central Aleutians. Showers here over the south central area, and then more moisture comes in on Saturday for better chance of rain.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.